Why do you think that we were losing in trade?
Because our leaders have completely sold us out to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world, and they don't want to help out Americans.
So you think like,
wait. What the fuck is that? Why do you think we were losing in trade? Because our leaders made us lose in trade. What is it? Like, what is that answer? Like, if say anything concrete at all, remotely, what the fuck?
There's a lot of people that want jobs, but they can't get jobs because a lot of this H-1B visa stuff that Trump...
True. Yes. There's pretty good evidence. Like, if you're concerned about immigrants displacing native-born workers, by the way, H-1B workers are, like, the people that you should be least worried about, because there's a few different mechanisms by which H-1B workers can be complements rather than substitutes.
So I think instead of just like punishing the citizens of the country, right, by raising taxes on them, I think it's a much better idea.
Oh my God.
To sort of get money from a different source other than the United States taxpayer to help.
We're still debating who pays tariffs, really. It's still a thing we're talking about in August 2025. Folks, liking and subscribing really helps me continue to produce content and is greatly appreciated. You can also make sure to check out my Discord server in the description below, where you can also find my Twitch, my Kick, and my Twitter.
Destiny, and I'm here to debate 7 Trump supporters today. My first prompt today is I think that the tariff regime that Trump has installed has already been catastrophic for the United
Oh, wow. I wonder why. They talk about tariffs a lot.
States, and I think it will continue to be catastrophic for the United States, even if he doesn't go through with it. I think that the goals of the tariffs in general are contradictory. I don't think you can both work out good trade deals where we can import stuff from other nations.
My goat? True. He forgot the stupid part, though. They're stupid and contradictory, okay? It's stupid to be focused so much on the trade deficit in goods, okay? There's no reason why a bilateral trade deficit, especially a bilateral trade deficit in goods, which is apparently all Trump cares about, it's so stupid. It's unbelievably retarded that he not only thinks trade deficits are bad, but focuses specifically on trade deficits in goods when the U.S. obviously exports a lot of services. If you include the services we export to a lot of countries, our trade deficit goes down dramatically, right? And it's contradictory because, you can't simultaneously get trade deficits down and negotiate a deal to like actually get us to a free trade equilibrium or whatever, right? And it's stupid that view trade deficits as a result of trade and not as capital flows. A lot of reasons why it's stupid and contradictory.
Nations and protect domestic manufacturing. Seems like there's a lot of tension between a lot of the things that he wants to do with these tariffs, and I think that the tariffs undermine already established trade policies that we had with other countries, namely the trade deal that we had with Mexico and Canada that Trump had worked out in his first.
It's a video like loud for you guys? Louder than my microphone? I feel like if I turn it up via this, it's gonna make it too loud, but I don't know.
Administration. And I think it creates a level of instability in this country that makes it impossible for large-scale capital expenditure because you are completely and totally in the dark about what the tariffs will look like in the future. So it discourages people.
This is true as well. Uncertainty, very bad in general. That's, obviously not only do we observe sort of domestically uncertainty, probably reducing investment, but you can look at a bunch of foreign countries that are dumping their U.S. bonds because of the uncertainty, right? America historically has benefited from the fact that our bonds and equities too are sort of are sort of seen as a safe asset, right? They're seen as something safe to invest in. That's why so many investors want to invest in the U.S. But currently, part of the reason we see the dollar dropping in foreign markets so quickly is because it's actually not. I don't think it's like that dramatic, but it is like a pretty stark decline, relatively speaking, compared to the U.S. historically. I think it's like the worst year since 1973, right? Is because foreign investors are selling their bonds, they're selling their U.S. equities, they're selling their U.S. assets. They don't want to be invested in a country where a madman is changing trade policy every day.
From investing in long-term manufacturing here. So even if you were in favor of any of the stated goals of the tariffs, I don't know if they accomplish any of them.
Okay, so Destiny, you say the tariffs are bad, right?
Wait, can I reach out to these people too? More content. Yes. Let's go.
Tariffs, I don't know if they accomplish any of them.
Okay, so Destiny, you say the tariffs are bad, right? Okay, why did the Democrats, like Biden, totally continue them and even added more of them?
Oh my God, let's go. Yes.
On China, especially. Sure, there's like stuff going on with Taiwan, but the Democrats did not take any of the tariffs away.
Number one, Biden did get rid of a few of them. There were a few that he was able to get rid of them, right? He already won. Look at his hat, true. But, Biden didn't want to, for one, like Biden was to some extent concerned with the same national security issues that Trump was, right? Like that's why he did the CHIPS Act as well, which I think was much more effective than the tariffs. Now, I don't actually think that tariffs are optimal industrial policy, but Biden did just genuinely have concerns over U.S. national security. He just wasn't stupid like Trump was. Now, doing 10% universal tariffs on everyone at the very least, and tariffing all our allied countries, obviously, as well. But look, Biden, to the extent that he left some up, either was genuinely concerned with national security. 2, you don't want to look like weak or whatever by sort of unilaterally bringing tariffs down, even if it like would be good for you to unilaterally remove tariffs, as it usually is. Like in a context of foreign policy or whatever, you kind of look weak when you do that, even if it would be good for your own domestic economy. You typically want to try to negotiate down deals or whatever. The entire the reason we got to sort of a free trading world in the first place is because, in the 40s we did reciprocal tariff cuts, right? We started doing reciprocal tariff cuts, and that was continued with GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade and stuff, or taxes and trade. I think it might have been tariffs and trade, where countries agreed to simply to reciprocal tariff cuts as well. The WTO also is founded on that framework. That's what followed up GATT. And there's just there's regulatory capture as well. Once a tariff is in place, people who that tariff benefits can like lobby to keep that tariff in place, essentially. So, Nick Fuentes is a centrist source to base opinions off of, right? Not at all. I didn't hear about that, Raj. Oh, you're talking to each other. Okay.
Added to the tariffs, and the Democrats they govern better, right? So if that's one of the policies they get, then the tariffs are actually good for Americans. So I think the Democrats did it, right?
Well, so I think
Democrats govern better.
But I agree, they do govern better. So I think there's two separate things going on. So I think number one, I don't think that tariffs are necessarily bad in all circumstances. Okay. I think as econ policy, as Trump is using them, they're generally bad. And I think when they're literally across the entire board, I think they're also bad. I think that targeted towards particular countries or sectors, they can be okay. So I believe, for instance, that I think Biden raised them against something like electric vehicles.
Yeah, tariffs.
But tariffs alone,
I don't think the electrical vehicle tariffs Biden did were good.
Drill, baby, drill.
Well, I don't think tariffs alone are enough to affect your
Drill, baby, drill. Oh my God.
ideal economic outcome, because after you tariff a country, they can also ship to other countries, and there are other people that can ship from there to your country, or you can just continue to import from other
That's
countries.
true, but they have to deal with the U.S. because we're number one. They just have to
sure, but I'm
in
saying
many
What?
instances.
Yeah.
Hold on. Wait, did I
No, that's
misunderstand the point Destiny made? I think Destiny's point was that generally for tariffs, you're not going to see necessarily production onshore. You can sometimes just see production go to other countries, unless I misunderstood him.
Outcome, because after you tariff a country, they can also ship to other countries, and there are other people that can ship from there to your country, or you can just continue.
Yeah, he was talking about trans-shipment. He's saying, like, if we tariff China, you might see, instead of production moving to the U.S., you might just see China ship to Vietnam and Vietnam ship to the U.S., right? That was Destiny's point.
That's true, but they have to deal with the U.S. because we're number one. They just have to.
This is not a meaningful response to that point. I don't know what he's talking about.
Sure, but I'm saying
many instances, they just have to. They can't not do that. And even then,
there are other
there's other workarounds to probably make them do that, because the U.S. has just been undermined a lot in these instances.
I don't
which
think
is
that's
also
true.
why the European
There's no good reason to think that.
Union recently, they came to the table. They even said the European Union lady, she barely said anything at this press conference, but what she did say was that it's been totally unfair to the U.S. and that these tariffs made things like fair.
Sure. So, okay, wait. So just
So first of all, I don't know if the EU person said that at all, but if she did say that, I would kind of guess by she's just sucking it up to Trump. She's Trump is the most egotistical maniac. If you just glaze him enough, he'll back off on some of his more extreme demands. Why do you think you see Apple giving him the golden American manufacturing plaque or whatever, right? It's because Trump is egotistical. He likes people praising him. Okay, there's a article from Richard Hanania. Trump has a plan. It's North Korea, where he goes over some of these instances. I think that's a good Substack article. It's funny, but certainly the deal I think we got out of Europe was not at all good. First of all, it's not even a deal officially yet, right? All these deals so far are phase one non-binding agreements that the details are going to be hammered out later, and we'll see if they actually end up falling apart. Secondly, all the these commitments that he gets from other countries that he brags about all the time, just the same thing, are not legally binding. And the EU has even stated, hey, the EU actually has no ability to follow through on the investments that we kind of promised, right? That's not something the EU has the power to mandate. And they just kind of represent sort of investment, sort of expected investment from private companies, right? And by the way, that's probably going to push the trade deficit up, actually, because foreign investment is just the opposite side of the trade deficit. The trade deficit is balanced out by capital account surplus. And we're leaving up, I think, 19% tariffs on the EU on our side. I believe. Which is not good. Oh, 50% tariff. 50. We're leaving up a 15% tariff on the EU after this, which is not good. Tariffing everything from the EU at 15% is not good. You're going to raise prices for the consumers, obviously. You're going to harm producers who rely on imported goods from Europe that produce that import intermediate goods from Europe, right? So you're going to hurt a lot of companies too. Like, it's just not, you're just going to have a fundamentally less efficient allocation of resources because you're not being able to take advantage of the gains from trade. You're reducing the gains from scale that the U.S. can experience, that U.S. manufacturers rely on. Like,
just on the first
at least things should be fair,
well,
right?
Yeah, I agree, but I don't even know
Yeah.
if Trump knows what fair means right now.
No, but the European Union lady
I understand.
said that, and Trump was
I'm
one who brought it
trying
to
to
the
explain
table.
Biden's approach to tariffs versus Trump's
Yeah.
approach. So Biden did continue some. He did some more targeted ones on China. We can talk about whether or not that's good or bad, but the most important part was he paired those tariffs with domestic policy, with like the CHIPS Act, to also incentivize more manufacturing, more capital investment in domestic industry in the United States in a way that's a little bit more reliable and long term than just a tariff that could come and go every 4 years depending upon the whims of the president. That was one thing. And then the second thing is also it's easy to put a tariff on. It's hard to take a tariff off. If you put a tariff on a country, they're probably going to retaliate, which China has.
No, but like I said, well, China.
what's your opinion to retort to this negotiated line of argument? I feel like I just basically went over that. That the tariffs are being implemented, so we have a mutual tariff rate. I can't type. I mean, I just said, like, obviously Trump's end goal. So the initial kind of cope was partly like, oh, I'm a free trader, where Trump is just going to use these tariffs to get to, an actual free trade regime. He's going to make sure that we have no tariffs on both sides, whatever. Trump has completely abandoned that. He's completely abandoned the reciprocal view, right? He's gone to, we're going to use these tariffs as a threat to bully our allies and bully other countries into having no tariffs on our exports, but we're going to impose, tariffs on ourselves. We're going to impose tariffs on them, right? I mean, I think that's a very silly thing to do because tariffs are just dumb, right? I mean, for all the reasons that I'm sure I'll talk about a lot more as we go through this video, tariffs are just not economically efficient in any way.
That's like an ongoing
It's not ongoing
thing.
I'm just saying,
But
just
that's
real
why-
And like I said, I think it's very likely a lot of these deals will fall apart as negotiations continue or they'll be significantly less broad in scope, right? I think that you don't even see particularly big concessions from these deals, even in the sort of phase one agreements that the UK is agreeing to lower their tariff on American beef. Are you kidding? What the fuck? This is the big issue that we're dealing with in America right now? Really? And that's worth having a 10% tariff on everything that we import from the UK?
why the
If you-
Democrats added tariffs to it.
If you tariff a country and then
we're never going to do this video. Uncertainty is just very bad. So not only does the deal, I don't think the deals have been better than the deals we had before, but I also think trade policy uncertainty has been very, very high, right? And that just decreases business investment, generally speaking. So the deals would have to be so good as to sort of justify the cost that we've seen when it comes to economic uncertainty. But more efficient as foreign policy tactics and never as economic focus. Basically, Nicholas Decker has this good article on it. For a lot of the kind of broad takeaway, essentially tariffs typically are going to reduce scale, which is very important for exporting firms. And typically the process of exporting essentially helps with the transmission of information, the transmission, particularly with management as well. I think he cites a study in here about Egyptian rug makers that exported were able to sort of better their companies. They're able to be more productive because the process of exporting, interacting with foreign buyers, transmitted information to them about their preferences and about how to produce rugs more productively. You also see, obviously, facing foreign competition is very important as well for productivity gains. Firms that face competition from, foreign producers or just domestic producers, but now face increased competition because of transportation costs decreasing, for example. You saw, mining companies essentially have monopolies in some areas because it just costs too much to transport raw materials that people could only buy from the local producers. But once railways got cheaper once highways got cheaper, competition increased, and the productivity of these firms like skyrocketed in many cases, right? Like mining companies now had to actually compete and automate and be way more productive to compete with producers that were, halfway across the country that previously they didn't have to compete with, right? There was kind of those broad gains from productivity, from better management, from exporting that you kind of, from scale that you lose a lot of times with tariffs that you don't necessarily lose with other types of industrial policy even. That's why, why tariffs are never the optimal industrial policy. This is a good article. And he cites a lot of studies in here.
Tariff you back. That's an easy thing that both sides can do. Escalation.
He was winning the trade war with China beforehand. The
I
Democrats,
don't think so.
The Democrats added to it. They agreed with that because they continued those policies. And I'd say he should add to the policies in that regard. And just on that first,
wait,
point, with the
I'm
semiconductors,
just
he
saying-
brought the Taiwan semiconductors to America.
We're not making those
30% of the total semiconductor production in the world.
That's absolutely not happened yet.
No,
but
well, he's
when
bringing that in. Like these things don't happen overnight.
Well, they don't happen in 4 years.
That's not happened, obviously. And also, like Biden's CHIPS Act is obviously going to help with that.
Added to it. They agreed with that.
Can do escalation.
He was winning the trade war with China beforehand. The Democrats,
I don't think so.
The Democrats added to it. They agreed with that because they continued those policies. And I'd say he should add to the policies in that regard. And just on that first,
wait,
point, with the semiconductors, he brought the Taiwan semiconductors to America.
We're not making those 30%.
I don't know what exactly he's talking about. So I think there were deals from certain companies to like invest in semiconductor stuff under Trump as well, but also like they did that shit under Biden because we had the Chips and Science Act that was like focused on subsidies for this shit. Obviously, scale is a very important thing when it comes to companies being able to export to other countries. Sort of as the size of a market increases, as you have the potential for more buyers, you can sort of invest more in your fixed cost, right? And then if you're able to sell to more people, essentially your average fixed cost is going to go down per unit because that's economies of scale, right? Fixed costs are fixed. As you export more, the average fixed cost goes down. So that's a very important element that if you start a trade war for all our allies, you're going to lose because firms are going to have a lesser an ability to export because of retaliatory tariffs placed on us, and also because of uncertainty as well. People are just going to be more hesitant to buy from the U.S. if they think the U.S. is not a reliable trading partner, and because a tax on imports is also a tax on exports because you reduce essentially the amount of dollars held overseas. You're going to appreciate exchange rates. Generally speaking, we don't see that right now. We don't see the dollar going up because the uncertainty effect is overpowering the effect on the effect of less imports. But also Nonfon, is it just me or does the dude debating Destiny sound like Jeb? Who is Jeb?
Semiconductor production in the world.
That's actually not happened yet.
No, well, he's bringing that in. Like these things don't happen overnight.
Well, they don't happen in 4 years either. But what I was saying is that also like to take a tariff down requires some bilateral negotiation for both of you guys to remove tariffs because it's unlikely if you just take yours down, the other side will respond in kind. So once tariffs are up, it's easy to keep them. It's hard to take.
Well, why didn't the European Union did? They capitulated.
Well, we don't know that yet. We don't have
They did. They just came to the table very recently.
They said that, we don't have an actual deal yet. We just have like words so far. Like we also had
Bro.
words with Japan. We've also had words with.
And also, it's likely that a lot of these countries think that the tariffs will be struck down as unconstitutional, so they don't have a strong incentive to negotiate like a hardcore deal where they capitulate a ton of things because the tariffs are likely just going to get struck down as unconstitutional. I think Tyler Cohen has an article about the EU deal as well. Bush, LMAO. Wait, did you mean? I have no clue what Jeb Bush sounds like at all.
With Vietnam, we had words with the UK. We don't have actual solid deals.
Okay, but they're still coming to the table and they're signaling that they're going to go along with these deals that generally should be better, should benefit the U.S. But I agree that these policies
No, I mean, I feel like I've already explained it. It's no good reason to think that they benefit the U.S. on net,
could do more for Americans domestically, actually help out Americans start families here instead of helping China or Israel or just all these countries.
I mean, it's possible. So, I mean,
what did you think of the freaking the U.S., Mexico, Canada thing? You said you supported that with Trump in the beginning,
the
right?
trade deal, yeah. I mean, it's basically an expansion of NAFTA, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm curious about, why do you think that we were losing in trade?
Because our leaders have completely sold us out to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world, and they don't want to help out Americans.
So do you think
Trump at least
wait. What the fuck is that? Why do you think we were losing in trade? Because our leaders made us lose in trade. What is it? Like, what is that answer? Like, if say anything concrete at all remotely, what the fuck? Like,
starting the trend where that needs to start helping people who live here. I know a lot of a lot of these policies help out these like big companies that he has connections to, and that needs to stop. So he needs to start
not even
helping
thinking,
out
not even that far.
Americans.
I'm just saying, like,
this is the step in the right
who do we
direction.
feel like
though.
who do we feel like we were losing out to?
The rest of the world. European Union even said that it was completely one-sided, the trade deals before, and he completely redid NAFTA. Right?
How is it? Well, he didn't completely redo it. It was
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not nowhere near a complete redo. It was like it was not a substantial change from NAFTA, the USMCA. But oh my god, he says while benefiting from it the most. I know, dude. It's like he's not saying anything concrete about how we're like losing from trade at all. I'm very curious if he ever gets to that answer.
slightly modified. How do we feel like the rest of the world was beating us? Does it seem possible that the United States was literally losing to the rest of the world?
Yeah,
but we still have,
taxpayer
like, the best
dollars go
economy?
to aid for like dumb stuff in these other countries that should be going.
What? How is that even related to trade? Now your taxpayer dollars are going to the U.S. Treasury whenever you import something. What?
Here, just across the board, not just for
Okay, so I want to take a step.
What tax is he talking about? Just like foreign aid? That's what happens when someone just tells you what to think without telling you why. I know.
Back, I just want to look at the broad picture. So in the 4 years under Biden, the USD is like the strongest it ever has been. The American consumer is the strongest it ever has been. Compared to the rest of the like economically developed countries on the planet, we were doing better on inflation. Our economy growth has been huge. We still lead the world in several industries. I don't understand where this idea
that
comes
was
from.
because of Trump's policies enacted during his previous term that Biden profited
Bro.
off of.
I think that
These
was,
things don't happen overnight, you know.
let's assume that was true. Trump didn't do all of the tariffs in his first 4 years.
So the economy was pretty good under Trump, but then you would say, "Oh, that's because of the economy that he inherited from Obama." Huh?
Well, I mean, he inherited a decent economy from Obama, and I don't think he did anything to.
Oh, but Trump can't like bestow a good economy to Biden.
Well, he didn't hurt the economy. I don't think. He
Yeah,
did
and like I
anything
said, Biden continued a lot of these policies.
Sure, but I'm just saying that like when we look at the rest of the world, okay, ignore our U.S. presidents or whatever. I'm just saying that it feels like I don't think anybody else on the planet looks at the United States and goes, "Wow, look at that sucker country that we're all taking advantage of." I think that we still have.
Yes, they do.
Which
India, for sure.
do you think
looks at that.
Do you think
They're
that the
very
average
arrogant
Indian
in the way that they take advantage, and that they don't say that, but that
Are we gonna say anything concrete here at all? Like, what is take? I don't understand what take advantage means. We should expect, based on the fact that people are engaging in trade on a market system, that they are in expectation that that trade is mutually beneficial. Why would I like? You're not giving me any reason to doubt that, right? And we should expect, based on the models of trade that we have, be it comparative advantage, be it the Heckscher-Olin model, be it new trade theory, that trade is going to be mutually beneficial between two countries. Give me a reason to doubt that. You've given me zero reason to doubt any of this.
that general sentiment
Sure, but like
is
if you think
the
in what ways,
mindset
in what
for
ways
a lot
is
of
India,
immigrants.
in what ways is India like better than the United States?
Now, why are we talking about immigrants now?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they feel very entitled to taking advantage of, like they say, yeah, we're gonna go sucker these people. A lot of these scams, not just in India, in other East Asian countries, a lot of these other countries they just come here to scam, or they take advantage of our system that allows them to scam over.
What? This is like barely even tangentially related to trade. Like, okay.
Overseas. A lot of people here, what they do is that they start companies overseas to do it cheaper, just so like they could profit, but that doesn't really help Americans.
What would you have to
Destination-based tax would fix that, but I don't think that's
see,
true.
or what would
What they do is that they start companies overseas to do it cheaper, just so like
To some extent, you might see companies like headquarter in Ireland or something because it's like kind of a tax haven. But that still benefits Americans insofar as whatever the company produces, ends up being consumed by Americans, or if the company produces in America ends up employing Americans or whatever. Like, there's still obviously benefits to America, and even in that case. But all that is a case for a destination-based tax. That not instead of an origin-based tax system, which I would agree with. Let's do a destination-based tax. Let's tax based on where products are consumed and not where companies are headquarters, and that would lower avoidance and that would help out Americans a lot. But okay. Like they complain about this, but never offer a viable solution. Apparently, the viable solution is, 1,000,000% tariffs on every fucking country ever. Let's go. Like,
they could profit, but that doesn't really help Americans.
What would you have to see, or what would change your mind to think that other countries weren't scamming us, or what would have to change for you to feel like we weren't being scammed by other countries?
What would have to change? That's a good question. A lot would have to change.
Because India is not doing better
nothing concrete again.
probably in almost any way versus the United States. Neither any of the other countries are supposedly scamming us. I feel like the U.S. is a really good deal with the rest of the world, and that we have the global reserve currency. We are the head of like basically all the military alliances.
Yeah,
I
people
feel
want
like
to come and like take advantage because there's a lot to take
Is it
advantage
possible
of.
that somebody could come here to take advantage of something, but both of us benefit? Is that possible?
Um,
Like, couldn't people come to the U.S. to take advantage of something, but both of us are getting something we want? Like when I go,
just come take advantage. Yeah, it's fine. It's like I don't think that's a good thing to be promoting.
Oh my God, he's not even engaging with it at all.
So like,
in
if I go to
general,
Starbucks,
that
I spend,
mentality.
like,
It's like,
$4
just
on
come
a-
take advantage. Yeah, it's fine. Because a lot of Americans are struggling, dude, hardcore. So I think at the present moment,
He's not engaging with the mutually beneficial point. That's his whole point. Is like, even like, let's assume someone has the motivation to come here to take advantage of us or whatever. Isn't it possible that it's still mutually beneficial even under that framework? Like, presumably at the very least, a company hiring that immigrant or whatever expects to benefit from that. And I think the evidence shows that, you know, there aren't substantial negative externalities from immigration. In fact, there's probably some positive ones. So
last like couple decades maybe, no, like that's just, we got to take care of Americans. It's like,
But
we can't be doing that because a lot
I
of
see what you
Americans
mean,
can't
but I know when
afford to
Americans-
just have people like take advantage.
Sure, who do you
People
think-
are struggling out here paycheck to paycheck. Normal families, dude. Like I live
yes.
around here. It
I love the progressive slop memes. Yes.
it sucks sometimes.
Do you think
the
that
quality
people in
of
other
life.
countries like aren't struggling, or who do you think is like what other countries are taking advantage of so much?
So it's just to like bring everything down is the idea.
Well, it's not bringing everything down. It's that the idea that the United States is being taken advantage by all these other countries is a delusion. There's no evidence whatsoever.
That is
and
no,
trade-
that is
understanding how trade
100%
works.
happening.
I know you can say
And
that,
like I
you
said,
feel
there's
that way, it doesn't make
Americans
sense.
here who are just encouraging that by like, you know, starting companies overseas and just taking advantage of the system. Americans like just like
Why is starting a
Democrats,
country
dude.
overseas isn't necessarily a bad thing, is it?
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but just the general idea that just these like nationalistic policies, I guess you could call them, that would help Americans that aren't geared towards Americans. A lot of other countries have
What do you
these
think is
types
a
of
bad
policies.
policy that hurts Americans that also benefits
That just make open borders, for example, that just brings people here.
Oh my God.
Undercutting
economic
wages.
policy. Like economic trade policy.
Neither of us are economists. Like everyone can see that these immigrants are coming over here to take people's jobs. That's just the bottom.
Yes. Yeah, I can tell you're not an economist because, you know, zero-sum bias is not, you know, very pervasive among people who aren't economists. It's not zero-sum. Obviously, there are other mechanisms by which immigrants could increase employment. Becoming like this is my worst nightmare makes sense. I mean, when I offer a win-win situation, but how does this benefit me directly in a short-term period of time? I know, it's so stupid.
Why is unemployment still below 5%?
Okay, the unemployment number.
Oh, no, Destiny's doing the natural rate of unemployment thing again. No, Destiny, no, not the natural rate of unemployment. No. Ugh. Not how you could shoot me if I become this. Don't think I would do that.
Total crap. Can I respond to that? Like that's just total crap. The freaking like unemployment numbers. Like what are you trying to say with freaking unemployment
I'm
right
saying
now?
that most
The total crap freaking unemployment numbers. Are we doing the BLS conspiracy memes too now?
people that want jobs have jobs right now. The unemployment is still considered pretty good.
No, there's a lot of people that want jobs, but they can't get jobs because a lot of this H-1B visa stuff that Trump.
True. Yes. There's pretty good like if you're concerned about immigrants displacing native-born workers, by the way, H-1B workers are like the people that you should be least worried about because there's a few different mechanisms by which H-1B workers can be complements rather than substitutes from for native-born workers, right? So for one, you know, you're so concerned about offshoring and people starting companies in other countries or whatever. Well, there's evidence that companies that hire more H-1B workers offshore less often, right? Which means that because they can hire immigrants, they actually end up hiring more native-born workers as well, compared to you know, firms that aren't able to hire immigrants and therefore just offshore and don't hire any native-born workers, right? Secondly, there's clustering effect. You know, the reason all the big tech companies are stationed in like Silicon Valley and San Francisco and all that stuff, right? That's because that's where all the smart people are. So if you have a bunch of smart people in one area, you can very well see sort of clustering effects where investment in that area is going to go up because companies have access to a bunch of smart people being in one area. In that case, bringing a bunch of smart people to America all in one place could very well lead to those total investment increasing, and you see kind of broad benefits from that help native-born workers as well, even within the same sector.
Is he's like flirting with that, and we don't want him flirting with that because it doesn't help Americans. There was a big discussion about that on like Twitter and just the general like sphere that we're in about that because that just
They're taking the jobs, they're eating the dog, and being
Americans. And he just needs to like stop doing that. And man, what was I gonna say about the unemployment? Like that's what adds to the unemployment. These freaking Indians just taking people's jobs.
What?
For one
think there's
example,
only, like,
there's
a
a lot of
limited- do you think there's
people
only a
who come
limited
over
number
here
of jobs?
and take advantage.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but the unemployment numbers are like they just cook them, dude.
They're not cooked at all.
No,
Yeah, they just cooked them. That's true.
Do it.
Once you
I
stop,
appreciate it, but we have to. Forgive me for doing it, but just to keep things moving.
She's still watching my stream.
He banned me.
Why would I do that? Oh no.
Lamau, dude. I can't believe it. What a fucking reveal. Big reveal. I turned myself into a pickle, Morty. Big
Wow.
big reveal. I tell myself, yes, I consider myself somewhat of a wanderer, actually.
Tips has read all of James Mason and Miguel Herzono. You should let him on. I don't know. Okay. Gotta watch the second dude.
Military like alliances.
Yeah, people want to come and like take advantage because there's a lot to take
Is it
advantage
possible that somebody could come here?
of. Is the idea
The unemployment is jobs.
and take
I hate to do it up front first.
You're not cooked at all.
No,
I hate to do it.
once you
Everybody is
All right, George.
we are unlikely to agree on any statistics or any history or anything like that.
Oh my God.
From your exchange just earlier, frankly, none of what you said is substantiatable from any information, data, resources I have, and I'm sure my
What resources does this guy have? I saw one nice little thread on Twitter. Like,
Twitter
what do
feed doesn't
we?
look like your Twitter feed. Let's forget all that.
Oh my God! How I fucking mind read that one, dude. Let's go.
We're not doing a fact-finding show. We don't have computers here. We don't have documents to prove one thing or another.
Can I ask? I'm just curious. How do you decide what numbers to trust?
Well, that's why I want to avoid this discussion, because we don't have numbers to.
Well, I'm just saying, like in general, like if you see Kyle Kalinske or Destiny or Charlie Kirk or Trump, if somebody says numbers, how do you decide like, oh, I think that number is credible or that number is not credible? Like,
By looking at the numbers, I've done some of my own research when I found interest in it or I wanted to. I've seen evidence of things differently than how other people see it, just from my own life or from going to the store and seeing it's like, oh well, the price of that went up and down. Oh yes, that's exactly what I expected from what was going on in the news.
Oh my God.
Or data that I've come across. So I would say there's no one source.
This is the median voter.
One way, but I would say most of what I internalize critically, but you would probably say that about the information you internalize. So I'm not really interested in throwing facts or figures unless we can actually have physical facts and figures. But on the topic of tariffs, what is a fair tariff? Should we have tariffs? I mean, that's, I think, a question I need to know what your opinion is to really debate.
But can't actually use any statistics to inform that opinion.
I mean, I would say in general, no. When I look at trade between two countries, there's a concept underpinning trade called comparative advantage, that some economies might be better at creating certain goods or services than other economies. If you can make it better than the other guy can make it per hour of labor, then you let the other guy make it, and then you focus on what you're good at. In a household, for instance, maybe a wife is good at doing home caring duties, and maybe a husband is good at doing office duties. If you switch these
Who you vote for Kamala Harris.
people around, you just create a worse situation for everybody, right? So when I think about tariffs, I'm generally thinking, like I guess my roots are libertarianish. 20 years ago, I'm thinking more free trade. Like as long as another country can create something better for us and they're not engaged in deceptive or harmful trade practices, which is a thing you could talk about, then I would say generally there should be no tariffs. Yeah.
So now,
Oh my God, this guy's immediately gonna fall hard on the China IP theft, isn't he? Oh no. Or he's just gonna cite some even dumber shit for unfair trade stuff. He's just gonna say cheap labor.
in the case of a country or an economy that definitely has a stronger advantage one way or another, if that is a problem for your local economy, is applying a tariff fair.
Oh my God, no, he says something even dumber. He says something even dumber. He says something even dumber. What's up?
Nonfon, are you able to pull North in and see if he's able to?
He's deafening right now. Why don't you just DM him?
Just. What is that? What I just sent you?
Oh,
Is that him?
this is him, yeah. I don't remember
I
changing cats at all in this, but yeah, this is him. He was indeed on this panel. I remember this, yeah. Nothing, let's be fair. These people who say this shit can simply be countered with source. It's so horrible. So horrible. You made me feel crazy. I still don't remember shit about cat. I remember this panel because it was right after the election, the presidential debate. But I don't remember the exchanging cats or whatever shit at all. Troll wants to tip you. Technically, I don't think anything is stopping them from donating if they really want to, but I would bet they would just charge back or whatever. Anyway, yeah, hold on.
If that is a problem for your local economy, is applying a tariff fair. Something to...
Is applying a tariff fair is a problem for your local economy. So trade, like a lot of things, okay, is going to have sort of diffuse benefits and concentrated losses. let's just say, and I actually don't think the evidence shows this happens very often. I think it's more likely that the reason you see declines in, for example, the manufacturing share of employment is due to more structural trends with regards to basically the shifts in consumer spending and the elasticity of demand for manufactured goods. But I got to dip my good stuff to do. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, Raj. I hope to see you again tomorrow/later today, whenever I next stream. But yeah, hell yeah. But, you might, let's suppose we start trading with China and, a furniture company goes out of business because now we're importing furniture from China. There may be concentrated losses in that some people in one town are going to lose their job because, of the increased imports from China. But there are diffuse benefits in that every single consumer in America can now benefit from cheaper goods. The resources that were previously being used to produce furniture in the U.S. are now going to go to other things that are typically more productive investments, or more productive overall. Essentially, there is sort of friction, especially with the labor market. There's friction there, which means people might be temporarily unemployed, but it's a localized loss for sort of a very broad gain. There's gains to U.S. exporters. Why did you mute me? I never muted you. One of my mods might have. The manufacturing workers didn't pull up their bootstraps hard enough. True. This is true. This is true. Exactly. But, U.S. exporters probably going to gain too because, trade liberalization increases both imports and exports. To the extent that we buy more imported goods, you're giving foreign countries dollars, which they then use to buy American exports, essentially.
To help reduce the input to your country that impacts what you're able to produce locally.
Yeah, I think you can have a conversation about things that can hurt your local economies, and I think it's fair to have a conversation about that. Although very broadly, doing tariffs is generally not the way to do this. I would say a really great example of a way to engage in some form of protectionism could be found in Trump's first term when he expanded on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. One of the numbers that we heard a lot recently was
Destiny, no, why are we doing this? No.
Canada's 145% tariff on dairy or whatever. So that wasn't really true. What it was is if Canada's own exporters, if their own local producers.
Wait, this is just a second channel? No, I'm pretty sure. No, this guy is from, I don't know if it's the same person, but this guy is from the troll dude or whatever. So we can totally count him out. I don't feel like bad at that at all.
Too much, then those tariffs would start to kick in to protect their domestic manufacturing. Well, I say manufacturing, but it was their domestic animal agriculture sector for that.
Conditional, but a tariff nonetheless.
No, I don't care.
Well, yeah, but I mean, conditional, but a tariff nonetheless is important. The conditionality part I think is important because broad tariffs are, I think, incredibly destructive. But specific protectionist things like that could make sense, right?
Yeah, but
why is it so much louder
it's
now?
A tariff. Conditional though it is, they've calculated well.
Oh my God. I don't know why Destiny's doing this shit. Destiny doesn't understand economics for real. For real, he has not read Why Tariffs Were Never the Optimal Industrial Policy. Kill me.
If we can't do at least this much business, it's going to be detrimental for our country. So we need to slow down or...
What's the guy? George. Wetscience.com. What the fuck? How do I get in contact with George? Okay. We'll see.
I understand when you're saying it's a tariff, but would you be okay with somebody stabbing you?
That's completely unrelated.
Sometimes have you read Optimal Tariff Theory? Well, I mean, I am familiar with Optimal Tariff Theory. I will say, obviously, we would expect. That's not Optimal Tariff Theory, by the way. It's not necessarily even for industrial policy. That's just to increase the terms of trade in your favor more generally. That it doesn't even have to be for sort of industrial policy reasons. It's just going to increase, it could be entirely in agricultural. You could have trade entirely in agricultural goods and still have, an optimal tariff exist. And that's not really what we'd probably consider industrial policy, I don't think, but
Related. No, I understand what I'm saying. If somebody were to stab you, generally we're not okay with that, right?
No,
but if somebody was performing surgery on you, it's probably okay, but they're still stabbing you. But it's very, 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 very different, right?
That's not a sincere argument. That's a completely insincere argument.
Okay.
You can't have a discussion. You're being evasive about.
I mean, I don't think that's 100% correct here, but it doesn't seem like an insincere argument to say that obviously we might expect there to be gains from limited targeted tariffs, but universal tariffs on everyone to be harmful in the same way that some types of stabbing might be good insofar as they're done surgically, literally surgically, and other types of stabbing might be bad if they're done recklessly.
about whether or not a tariff is fair, and you're trying to throw conditions into it. And then when I've got you painted into the corner of, yes, it's fair with conditions, then you're talking about surgery. It's unrelated. If there's a tariff on surgery, that would be in topic, but there isn't a tariff on surgery.
What?
I'm just saying that things can be okay with conditions, but not
How do we completely miss that point of the analogy? What the fuck?
okay, like just.
Dairy farming isn't surgery.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying.
Flushed.
So surgery isn't the same thing as tariffs. I'm just saying that like conditionally some things are okay, but applied very broadly, it's like disastrous. So I think like conditionally tariffs, like almost all forms of policy can be okay in certain conditions, but applied broadly, they can be really bad, I think. So that's my position on tariffs, yeah.
Okay, so but that's not necessarily the case. Most tariffs are either conditional or on certain market segments. So lots of the tariffs overseas.
Trump is not doing that now. Most tariffs historically, maybe, but we have universal tariffs on basically everybody. He's not the smartest, seemingly not.
From my understanding, because I don't have the fact sitting in front of me right now, is that there's certain markets that aren't included, and it's addressing.
Basically, to my understanding, basically the only thing excluded right now are like there are some specific companies that have basically gotten exemptions and USMCA compliant goods, which is like about 60% of the trade that we have with Canada and Mexico. From my knowledge, those are the goods that are exempted from tariffs, and basically everything else has a fucking tariff on it.
Imbalances from where Trump or whoever's in charge of looking at the numbers feels as though there's an imbalance where it's impacting our ability to
Feels as though there's an imbalance.
export.
So I think the issue is that
No, you can obviously. There's no reason a trade deficit impacts your ability to export. A trade deficit can actually increase your ability to export. Gross exports are not necessarily going to be correlated with a trade deficit. You could have an economy with balanced trade, but $1 million in exports. You could have an economy with a $3 trillion trade deficit, but maybe they have 500 billion in exports, right? Like, obviously it's not going to, like, gross exports are not going to be tied to trade deficits. And actually, I think it's a big flaw of the Trump administration that they focus on the trade deficit and not gross exports, because you could have lower trade deficits if you blew up the fucking economy, but you're not going to see higher gross exports.
so there's two things going on. So one, the tariffs are broad in that they're market wide. So they might be different from country to country. But
We never took into account the vibes deficit.
market wide tariffs, and not just targeting a particular industry. And then the
That's
second,
not in all cases.
Problem.
You can't generalize like that.
well,
And it's
besides
the
China, I
fact
think
that-
it is in all cases. I think, and every single tariff that we talk about for all the markets, it's affecting the entire market. The only exception is, I think on China, we've individualized some markets, but then he keeps going back on it. And then I think for
We have the issue is we have like sectorial tariffs stacked on top of the general tariffs, right? So it's like we have 10% tariffs on everything, and then we have like plus 25% on steel, right? So it's like,
in Mexico, we've exempted USMCA goods.
yeah, so we have exempted that.
Country, I believe, is just a broad, like 15% across the whole market, I think. So is my understanding.
So why do you think he's working on tariffs?
Because I don't think he's very intelligent. I don't think he knows how to do economic policy. So this is just like a thing he likes, and it gives him a lot of attention.
So
Like for another thing you brought up, like I don't agree with using tariffs because there's a quote unquote trade imbalance. Like there might be good reasons to protect certain domestic industries. I think a trade imbalance is not one of them. I don't think trade imbalances are necessarily bad for the United States, but for some reason Trump has been able to convince all of us of that.
see, it's difficult not to step on my own foot because I can cite different references, but we don't have references to
Sure.
compare to.
I mean, you can say you want. I can tangle with whatever you
I can't imagine what we're going to cite.
want to talk about. We can-
But it's I would say that the argument for if you don't think raising tariffs on other countries is fair, then is it fair for the other countries to have tariffs higher
Oh my God. Nice pivot, bro.
than what we have on them?
I mean,
Which has been the case. I don't think it's an argument.
Not
That
really.
has been the case for many, if not most, countries that are being.
well, it's not generally the case. I know that
Nope. If you look at the like average effective tariff rate placed on the U.S. by like our European allies, it was like 1.64%. It was very similar for Japan. Like almost all these other countries who are major trading partners have like less than 2% average effective tariff rates on the U.S. A lot of times it's even lower if you look at just manufacturing products, because of agricultural products tend to be a lot more heavily protected than manufactured goods. The proof that he isn't doing it for economic reasons is obvious when he just randomly increases tariffs when they piss him off. Yep, obviously, yeah. Like him targeting Brazil because they prosecuted Bolsonaro, or I think it's how you pronounce his name. Yeah. The fact that, by the way, in that letter, he said we had a trade deficit with Brazil when we don't even have a trade deficit with Brazil. We have a trade surplus with Brazil. Like, yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Trump said it, but the way that they calculated that was just saying if we have a trade deficit with a country, it means they have tariffs with us, but that's not necessarily true.
True.
The formula they used to calculate it was published on the website. It was just basically saying they took the overall
There's the trade deficit divided by imports. The denominator had two numbers that canceled each other out. So it was literally just a trade deficit divided by imports. And they miscited the study that they apparently used for the formula for the elasticity of imports to price, basically. I don't actually know if they technically miscited it because, you know, they probably just wanted those two numbers in the denominator to cancel out. Okay, so we would call Adam again. Who was Adam Khan or Adam Khan or Adam, the guy I had on last night? I don't know why you want him on. I don't think I doubt he's up right now. I have no plans to talk to him as of now.
Deficit, and they
But what was I saying? Oh, they probably wanted those two numbers in the denominator to cancel each other out, so they probably didn't actually miscite it. They probably intentionally miscited it, basically. Exports minus imports over use the PDEX. That's bucket. That's a good one. Candy Sick Addict. He's the GOAT. Adam Khan is the GOAT. Adam, the dude I talked to last night, is fun to talk to sometimes.
like divided it by the exports, and that's why when people on the news were like, why did we put tariff on this island with penguins or whatever? I think there was some island where there was like one importer that bought a whole bunch of stuff, so we put like 150% tariff on that.
There was an island, not the Henry McDonald Island, the Penguin Island, but there was another island where we had like a massive trade deficit with them because like someone bought like $3 million worth of worth of fucking shrimp from them, okay, worth of crustaceans in like June, and therefore they got like the maximum like 50% tariff rate applied to them. It was fucking hilarious, dude. Oh my god.
Them because they don't like buy stuff from us, but it was just calculated based on it. They didn't have a tariff on it. They didn't buy anything from us. So it was the way they applied the formula was very crude.
But is there your understanding that have any of these
by the way, non-zero chance they literally use ChatGPT for that shit. Non-zero chance they literally just ChatGPT that shit.
countries have tariffs higher on us than we have had on them?
No, I don't believe so.
It's
all right. That's
not
exactly
true.
the opposite of any information.
It depends what you. I don't know what he's looking at for that. I don't know if he's talking about on average. On average, it's not true. Obviously, there are individual countries for which that is true, like India, for example. But you should probably care about the average. And then we should probably still, if that's our issue, then why are we doing reciprocal? Explain why Appalachia is so poor. Rednecks, stupid. I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know what unique issues they have that makes them poor, quite frankly. Wish I could tell you.
I've ever heard on the topic. I haven't even heard any Democrats debate otherwise, so I'm not sure where you're getting that information. But I guess we can't discuss that then. There's no information to compare.
I mean, I feel like if other countries had all these massive tariffs on us, I feel like we would have been talking about it sometime in the past few decades, or Trump would have talked about it in his first term at least, but he only brought this up for some reason in his second term. Why do you think that is?
That's not true because he had...
Answer globalization? I don't believe so. Again, I don't think there's good evidence that trade is like sort of substantially negative for the manufacturing share of employment. I think maybe 16% of the decline. I think the best data I've seen is about 16% of the decline in the manufacturing share of employment was due to trade. The rest of it was just due to automation and things like that. I don't think globalization made them significantly poorer, but
discussed tariffs very, very strongly regarding China.
Correct, but China, that was because of a particular, China has been an economic threat, and they engage in kind of like bad economic practices or harmful ones towards us, but we've been talking about China for decades, right? But tariffs across the entirety of the world, Trump only brought that up in his second term. I'm curious why you think that is.
He did bring up his first term. His momentum was only so strong in his first term. I think even by his own admission, he wanted to win, but he was somewhat surprised he did. He wanted to work with the government in place, and I think most of us were surprised by how much resistance there was to even just doing daily obligations in support of his administration, let alone any progress. And this term, he has a significant amount more of momentum. The momentum is so much stronger, he's able to work on the things that he was unable to previously. So I don't think it's...
You know, if you're just bold enough to do illegal shit, okay, the momentum, aka unilaterally engaging or putting up super fucking high tariffs, probably against the law by invoking emergency powers, okay? I love this momentum so much, dude, let's go.
He didn't want to or he didn't try. It's that he didn't...
The Supreme Court should be ruling on that, like, pretty soon, shouldn't they? Like, I think it's, like, this month that they are going to rule on the tariff shit.
Didn't have the momentum or the ability in Congress and other courts had him in legal deliberations constantly. So,
Okay.
Okay. Well, hello, Stevens. Nice to meet you.
we talk about Trump's tariffs today, and you've expressed that you don't think they're that great or what he's done. And I want
I
to
would say
say
catastrophic, but yeah.
I want to say he's done really good, and I'll tell you why. I think he should even
Really
raise
good.
the tariffs more, not just on the other countries on the
man.
earth, but especially the people that are going to be our enemies for the next world war that's coming up, which has already started. I'll talk about that a little later, but what I think one of the best reasons for Trump to raise tariffs even higher than they are now is because there's so many illegal immigrants coming here, being let into the country.
What?
And of course, they're having babies, right? And those babies need to be fed. So I think instead of just like punishing the citizens of the country, right, by raising taxes on them, I think it's a much better
Oh my
idea
God.
to sort of get money from a different source other than the United States taxpayer to help.
I would. We're still debating who pays tariffs. Really, it's still a thing we're talking about in August 2025. I just found the weirdest stream. It's 11 hours and it's angry British man complaining and muting, talking on the phone, and other random British people. Maybe psychosis, but he seems lucid at the moment. Lol, dude, based. I have no faith in the Supreme Court anymore. Me either, really. I put it. It's it's a fucking coin toss whether or not they rule tariffs illegal. We'll see. Especially when it comes to executive power. Yep, exactly. It's a coin toss in my opinion. We'll see. Tax trade to lower immigration to America. What kind of logic is this? I think he just thinks other countries pay tariffs. When are tariffs worth it? Probably in like a very few specific national security cases. But I don't even think they're the best for industrial policy most of the time. Holy shit, it's almost 1K views. What the fuck? Oh, the British man?
With this problem that we have of this influx of illegal immigration through that open border, which is another thing Trump did good to at least address the idea that it's
like 130.
sensitive, like it's a danger to have it, especially with this coming world war, how there's fentanyl coming through that open border, and which is coming from China. I don't know if you guys have information about.
Technically, if tariffs appreciate the dollar and fentanyl, since it's illegal, is not subject to increased taxes, import tax to tariffs, you're technically giving a subsidy to Americans buying fentanyl because the purchasing power of the dollar has gone up, but it's not mitigated by the tariff, which increases domestic prices. So really, it's a subsidy to fentanyl.
That, but it's being produced in China and it's coming north of the border through Mexico with the cartels. Now, if they're doing that, and since we haven't gotten to a hot war with them yet, the best thing to do is get as much money as we can through tariffs, which would be legal and not so much aggressive in the sense of like a hot war. And I think Trump is doing a great job what he's doing with what his opposition is. And just for basically those two reasons, which kind of connect that, yes, there's a huge problem with illegal immigration. And
let's give Steven a chance.
Okay.
Well, yeah, okay. So I guess just on one of these, when we say tariff, are we still under the impression that the other country pays the tariff and not the American consumer?
I think the people have lied about that for so long that people are just starting to become aware of it. And I think people probably lie too.
Well, so like, what do you think like tariffs are collected
Oh my
from?
God.
Well, exactly like I just said, get it from these countries. They want to make deals with the United States, China. They're a massive producer with all those coal power plants.
If we're making deals, then no one's paying the tariff then. Presumably a lot of the tariffs go away, or at least they go down. But the tariffs that remain, we still...
Is redneck an okay term to use?
Thanks, ladies,
If
for
so,
$5.
what other derogatory terms are okay to use?
Redneck is absolutely an okay term to use. That's more than okay. It's a base term to use, okay? And I'm from the South, so I can definitely say it. Okay. What other terms? Big median voter energy. Oh, I know it's horrible, Sauce Rama. Dude, Sauce Rama, I was thinking of you and about that stuff when I was watching the Bernie talking to people, to Trump voters in Western Virginia. I was like, oh my God.
This will cover tariffs for the next year, Nonf.
Thanks for the $2, Caleb. I appreciate it. Hick? I've never used the term hick before. Easy money. Is that what you're referring to? Redneck for whites and for criminal for blacks is usually used by news. You can use redneck. You can use hillbilly. Yeah, but no, I was thinking of your South Carolina when I was watching the Bernie Sanders talk to voters in West Virginia. It's like all the dumbest like populist like slop ever. They're all so stupid, and they all like it's the type of people that are swing voters between Bernie and Trump. So that's the median West Virginia voter that sucks. What are your preferred derogatory terms for minorities? I don't think I'm going to list them. I don't think there's a need to do that. I think we're good. I think I've said enough.
that they're able to produce a lot cheaply, and they need a market for that.
Well, so, I mean, they have the entire rest of the world, not just the United States.
Well, the rest of this earth does not have the economy like the United States.
The rest of the earth has a far bigger economy than the entirety of the United States.
Pardon me?
The rest of the world combined has
you have seen that China has been able to, for the most part, shift their exports to other countries rather than the U.S. Other countries might have a lesser ability to do that than China does because China also has more power in the world stage and can do other subsidies or whatever. You can call them cousin fuckers. That's true.
larger economy than the United States.
Oh, so that's what you're saying. So I guess you're proving my point then. If the rest of the economy is bigger than the United States, then yeah, we should get as much from them as we can.
Well, I guess, but what I'm saying is that, like, if there's a tariff that we enact against another country, a tariff is something that a consumer in the United States pays when they import something. That's an import tax.
I don't think Americans should pay more. I think we should pay less.
But that's what a tariff is.
No, I like I just said, we shouldn't pay more. We should get more money from the other people.
A tariff is
the United States.
An import tax, right?
Excuse me?
A tariff is an import tax. Like, all the money collected from tariffs is just more taxes.
Yeah.
I'm going to blow my brains out.
That's why they need to work these deals out better so that the United States taxpayer is...
Either the deal gets rid of tariffs and no one's paying anything, or the deal leaves some tariffs in place, in which case Americans are paying the tariffs. What are we doing?
Isn't covering the burden for all this humanitarian efforts that are
humanitarian efforts have nothing to do with tariffs. Tariffs is when you import goods.
Illegal immigrants that people are like okay with, you know, like how it's okay to bring them here, and
immigration is a separate
this idea that's okay to make other countries better before making our country better.
You
that's the whole thing about America first.
Are other countries are better than America right now?
I didn't say that they were better.
Okay,
I said America is the best country. We're in charge. We're the leader, and there's a lot going.
I'm so confused. Wait, this isn't even him.
On. So yes, of course, like the Godfather, they got to pay tribute to the Godfather.
Is this him? He might not have stuff to link.
Hey, they got to kiss the rings.
Do you understand?
Wasn't this guy named George? Oh no, this was George. This was wait, is this? That's not him. Tariffs can be used for economic gain in some places, but Trump is not smart to use them effectively. I think the cases where tariffs are economic, like, technically there is such a thing as an optimal tariff, but the government probably is not even really that good, capable of even figuring out where that would be in the real world. Like,
okay,
Matthew, yeah, he just doesn't have his shit linked. Damn.
A huge problem with illegal produce a lot cheaply. And
states pays when they import something. That's an import tax.
I don't think Americans should pay more. I think we should get more money from the other people.
The tariff is an import tax, right?
Excuse me?
The tariff is an import tax. Like, all the money collected.
That's this idea that's okay to make other countries better before making our country better. That's the whole thing about America.
Did you watch the Bernie West Virginia video on this stream? Yeah, at basically the very beginning.
Are other countries are better than America right now?
I didn't say that they were better.
Okay.
I said America is the best country. We're in charge. We're the leader. And there's a lot going on. So yes, of course, like the Godfather, they got to pay tribute to the Godfather. They got to kiss the rings.
Do you understand that tariffs are an import tax?
Yeah, I understand that. So when China wants to sell their products here, they should not be as expensive as they want it. It should be as inexpensive as we want it.
The tariff will make it more expensive.
Excuse me?
Tariff will make it more expensive.
That's an assumption.
Well, no, it's a factual reality.
Is that an assumption, really? Actually insane how much more competent his first term is compared to just 8 months in a second. Well, competent by what metric? I don't actually know if Trump was competent in the sense that he didn't do as insane shit in his first term, but I also think that, you know, he didn't do as insane shit because he was more incompetent, because he didn't know what he didn't know to some extent the fuck he was doing. And he was constrained by his advisors who, you know, were more reasonable. As long as we lie to people about who pays taxes, it'll pass. So we need a candidate who says that corporations like Walmart pay land value tax for cheaper homes. Let's go. I like this idea. Candy say God.
Well, it's an assumption that you're thinking if we do this, it'll go one way. I'm saying no. Americans should pay less. The taxpayer should pay less. The tariffs that we charge, say, China to do business.
But what does should mean?
Here, any country.
They don't. All the historical evidence says that they don't. The evidence currently says that they don't.
India, Italy, anything. Iran.
Italy.
Yeah, they got to pay more. You know, they want to do
business.
If
it comes out in a year or two that we're paying more for things as a result of tariffs, would that make you change your mind on tariffs?
I still think that Americans should pay less and other countries should pay more. So
what? I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
But they've discussed earlier how the numbers can be fudged, and there's that famous book, How
Oh,
to
the numbers are fudged. That's true. That's true. That's true. Let's go.
Lie with Numbers. So the specific numbers people could lie about. I've
but you'll see
debated
that
plenty of
starting to-
numbers. I know that
There are
people
people now
lie
that are looking
with
at their
numbers, right?
at the stuff they're paying for, and it is starting to go up. There are people that are having to put 10, 15% additional charges for the tariffs.
That's one way to motivate the American manufacturing to increase. Like, so if you're saying China, they want to charge us more for their products, well, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be importing their products, and it should say made in USA instead of made in China.
So it's not China charging us more. It's people have to pay money to the treasury when they import something. And that doesn't work unless the price does go up. That is true, Caleb. That is true. It is funny that he literally can't take credit for probably the best thing he did.
China.
Sure, but the made in USA stuff is going to cost more money.
Well, that'll be jobs for Americans, right?
They got to
Oh my God, it's a net job decrease because there's an opportunity to you're drawing resources away from more efficient sectors. Blah 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 blah. You guys have heard the rant 100 times before. You're hurting U.S. exporters as well. The uncertainty from the tariffs it makes it unlikely that you're even going to see substantial investment in the U.S. because people don't know whether or not that it's worth it to actually invest in building a plant in the U.S. because the tariff could disappear in a month.
All of the
That's
consumers,
taxable
right?
income that will stay in the country.
At the expense of the entire.
It's not. What do you want me to say? It's not how the balance of payments works. Dollars are spent in the U.S. Okay, they buy if we spend dollars to import a good, those dollars either buy U.S. equity, like a stock on a company or whatever. They buy some type of fixed income asset, like a bond, which finances the government spending, or they use it to buy a U.S. export. In which case, the money's back. In any case, the money is back in America.
American economy, right? We're going to have to pay more for everything.
So what do you think is the bad thing that people get higher wages? Do you think that's a bad thing that people are going to get?
There's no good reason to believe that tariffs would increase wages on that. For one, you're mechanistically decreasing everyone's real wage because you're decreasing their after-tax income. Obviously, you're just raising the price of everything that they imported. And Americans import a whole lot of shit that they, consumers need. And secondly, you're just going to have negative effects on productivity. Like you could potentially maybe in some cases see an increase in productivity in the specific industry that is being tariffed, but certainly if you tariff, intermediate goods and capital goods that companies use to import, to make their goods and or, they import materials for their factory or whatever, in tools for their factory, like you're going to see a decrease in productivity in those companies. And to the extent that you reduce foreign competition, companies just have less of an incentive to innovate, less of an incentive to get more productive as well, because they're artificially protected by the government from competition. So you do see a decrease in productivity and therefore a decrease in wages, or at least wage growth. Employment too is going to go down. If consumers are spending more money on, certain goods, they're going to have less money to spend on other goods, which means, other sectors are going to be hurt and you're going to see a decrease in net employment. All the empirical evidence shows this. Paying down the debt is more important than cheap stuff. Tariffs are a very bad way to raise revenue. For all the reasons I mentioned, they're more inefficient than almost any other tax. Or shouldn't say almost any other tax. They're a pretty inefficient tax. But if we deport all illegal aliens, it will increase wages. It would probably not increase wages on net. That's a win-win. It'd probably be a lose-lose. Immigrants would lose. Americans in general probably lose too. Would that also increase inflation, or would it be a non-factor? What exactly the issue? Like inflation has a more technical definition than a one-time price increase. It probably would not increase inflation. You might see, to the extent that you see inflation expectations increase, maybe you can see a persistent increase in inflation. To the extent that you see the Fed try to accommodate the tax hike, and you might see inflation increase, but dollar purchasing power. You would see after-tax income decrease, right? I support any candidate that would do 100% deportation of illegals. That's pretty cringe.
Higher wages because it's not going to be made in China anymore.
I don't think the higher wages are going to matter when everything else is more expensive.
You don't think the higher wages?
It's not even. You would not even get higher wages. Trump is spending too much on illegals, housing and feeding, and free flights. This is not acceptable. How do you expect to deport them if you don't round them up and get them on flights?
Is going to matter?
Not when everything else becomes more expensive. No,
that's why it needs to be made in America.
It's going to be more expensive if it's made in America.
Well, I mean, once again, that's an assumption. I'm operating more on the principle.
Yeah, the principle also doesn't make sense.
Why would it not be made here already if it was cheaper? It was cheaper considering the opportunity cost.
Made in the USA, we should have more manufacturing. We should not outsource our manufacturing for anything to other countries.
So should we make every single thing that we consume in the United States?
I think that would be a perfect idea. I think the North and
Oh my God, Drew, no trade at all. Let's go.
America and South America are big enough and work well enough together that we could just say peace out, rest of the earth, and just be solid North and South America.
So what part of our economy do we take workers from to start manufacturing fabrics and textiles?
That's a great idea. You're saying where are the workers going to come from?
Yeah.
All these people that are just hanging out, no job, getting unemployment, everything. You know, every city you see people just hanging out. Give them
What do you think of this? Are blue states or red states better for preventing crime? Neither. Here's the percentage of black plot against murder rate, where states colored red and blue. Racist overwhelming factor here, and there's no evidence partisanship plays in a role. Wow. I don't know. I'm not gonna. I feel like I'll get canceled if I say any shit on this. I'm not educated on any of the hereditarianism stuff. Maybe I'll do a deep dive in it one day. I don't like. I don't know. I have no further thoughts. Okay. Well.
a job.
You know,
There'll be,
Trump says
at
right
that
now that
time,
the-
there'll be a robot. It'll be like artificial intelligence. You know, it'll be like
Oh my
computers and robotics.
God.
And yes, people will be able to get simple jobs. And so, yeah, to answer your question, where is that labor force going to come from? It's going to come from the United States.
It's absolutely not going to come from the United States. We absolutely don't have enough workers to cover for all the imports we have on the market. It's not an assumption, it's reality. Unemployment is low enough that we don't
We only have like 4.3% unemployment right now. It's pretty good.
have all the
Right
extra
now,
workers.
we're having
And the fact of the
these
matter is
bad
that the
deals
biggest,
with China,
say bad
right?
deals, but the most important places that America is making progress in right now where it feels like artificial intelligence. I don't know what I would take from that to mine coal or to manufacture textiles.
Well, the AI would be able to do it effortlessly without even having to.
If the AI could do it effortlessly, why isn't the AI doing it
It's
now?
funny that, again, automation probably played a bigger factor in the decline of manufacturing employment in the first place than trade did, which is also relevant because, even if you bring production back here with tariffs, you're not going to see a big increase in manufacturing jobs because all these jobs have been automated, right? It's all technology now. It's not. Nice sleep schedule, bro. It is it's totally fucked. What's up, hamsters?
It takes time. People are uncomfortable with it. It needs to be
These people are stealing our air, indeed.
more or
There's
less
a
rolled out
zero-sum gain for fucking air, okay, and they're stealing it.
in a major way. And I do think one thing about that, people need to become more comfortable with AI.
So wouldn't it be better to roll that out then by having people continue to focus on that research and then just import cheap stuff from other countries until we figure out how to AI it?
I think the best way to be to start American manufacturing utilizing artificial intelligence and advanced robotics as soon as possible.
What do you think manufacturers do here? The manufacturing that still exists in America is very capital intensive. We import very labor intensive manufactured products, and the manufacturing that is here is a very capital intensive manufacturing that relies on AI, that relies on automation, that relies on all this stuff.
And get Americans trained in how to write code, how to interact, and every
By the way, so you did the panel, you did a WIC, like 5 to 6 females about dating life. We'll be down to the same thing at some point, but with an all male panel. I think I'm done with the dating panel stuff. No offense, ladies. I think I'm good on that for a while. Okay, they did like 2 or 3 of them by now. Okay, I think I'm good on that for a while.
menial job. It won't even be like a human making like the specific logistical decisions.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but then I feel like it would make sense to just import the stuff from other countries and let them deal with the manufacturing while we do the research and innovation in AI.
I could agree with you to a certain extent as long as Americans pay less and other countries pay more.
Sure, the way that we pay less
Oh
is by
my
importing. That's why we
God.
import it, because it's cheaper.
Well, that's the immediate
True.
present. Yeah, that's why I'm saying they can make the changes now to increase how much more we get from other countries with these bad deals that are taking place and make better deals so that the American taxpayer pays less, not more.
I don't think you can just make a deal to pay less. When people start going out tariffs,
That's why we have President Trump, right,
Yeah,
guys?
and nothing
That's
is
why we have President Trump.
Yeah, but he hasn't made anything cheaper yet.
Well, in a way, you're right, because the prices they have just been steadily
You
going
think
up through
IQ is
every
heritable?
presidency that I've seen.
From
in my
the
life.
stuff I've seen,
But that's
yeah,
the point.
but I'm not
I voted for
well
Trump.
educated at all.
Was it 3 times? He won 3 times because he's saying the things that are true to me, that America should be first. If we are Americans, like I don't know if you're Canadian or something, you're American.
Very American.
You're American. What do you want? Like some other country to be doing better? Do you want America
I
to
don't
be
think any other country
servicing
is
them
doing better. I think America's doing the best right now. I don't think other countries are doing better than us. I think there's a bad assumption that every game is zero sum and if somebody else is winning that we're losing. When you go to the store and you give them $10 for I don't know, for whatever you buy, you're both winning in that transaction. You want the thing more than they want the thing, and they want the $10 more than
You mean like we have allies, right? We have allies. Good one. Good, Stephen.
Okay, so just to kind of reset, I actually agree with you more on tariffs. They are, like all taxes, ultimately paid by the consumer.
Real. Who, I feel like I've seen this dude before. You said Trump won 3 times. Did I mishear that? I don't know. I feel like I've seen this dude before. Oh, wait, was this guy in Jubilee? I feel like this guy's been on Jubilee. Because he's followed by another dude I know has been on Jubilee, and I requested to follow him, which makes me think I tried to reach out to him once. So I bet he was in Jubilee before.
You seem to have more of a libertarian stance on tariffs and kind of like a free trade what do you think about the concept of that Besant, Scott Besant has shared so often that tariffs are actually a tool being used by the Trump administration to pursue free trade outcomes? Do you think that there's a utility in that?
Relevant is? Yeah, of course, yeah.
Administration believes in free trade. I don't think very many people right now, unfortunately, in the United States believe in free trade.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that the underlying assumption right now, and I think we've heard it even a little bit today, is people very much believe in a kind of like a fixed pie economically, that if one person is winning, another person is losing.
Zero sum,
yeah. And so if people want to talk about tariffs being used as a tool to pursue something, I mean, one, I would ask, what have we gotten from it? And then two, I would say, we're the United States of America. We don't need to like use tariffs to pursue a thing. We could just have a conversation and figure that out.
Well, but I just find it interesting that a lot of Democrats will, by the way, one thing I love about the tariff thing is that Democrats have suddenly become super libertarian. Like suddenly they don't want any taxes, and I think that's great. I wish they had the same energy toward corporate taxes. I find it interesting that they want to increase corporate taxes, which, as you know, is ultimately paid by who? By workers, by people as well. It's not paid by ultimately by
certainly some of the incidence from corporate tax is on workers and consumer through higher prices and lower wages, but some of it is also on shareholders, to be fair.
Corporations. There's different studies that look at that. Same study, same grouping of studies that say that 90% of tariffs are paid by consumers, like you've said. But when we look at the actual outcomes, we do see that tariffs, especially in the case of European Union, I think Japan, Korea, they've allowed more access to markets. They've reduced regulatory. Like, are you familiar?
Yeah, they lower their effective average tariff rate from 1.5% to fucking 0%. This is the big win we needed, okay? And then we put, we keep up at least 10% tariffs on them, okay? EU 15%. I know Vietnam 19%. Like, oh my god. Most of it is. Have you read Corporate Tax Lit? I've seen a little bit of stuff on it. 2% to 1.5%. Yeah, I know exactly. I'm not like the most well read on it. Easy money, but the stuff I've seen, I thought it was like 38% on workers, like 30% on fucking consumers, and the rest on like shareholders. But I think that's just what I've read from the Tax Foundation. There's probably better or better literature on that.
With the non-tariff
if you want like send any I would certainly be interested in reading it, because I don't like the corporate tax, to be clear. So any stuff you can send in my Discord server, I'd read and check out.
Regulatory parity, market access, licensing.
But non-tariff quotas, it's not even, we can't even bring that up because we haven't even begun those discussions. And honestly, that's what we absolutely
yes, we did.
Absolutely
you
regulatory, the European Union, we've got like kind of these implicit agreements, but there is no comprehensive trade framework that's been set out yet.
Well, but it's clear to me that that's what they're trying to work on. Like you look at the situation with Tesla, right? That the European Union has certain regulatory barriers that doesn't allow Tesla to sell cars in many countries there. So if those are being lifted, same with meat. Sure, they can have regulations on like quality. That's fine. But I think there is some regulations that do hurt American companies.
There can be. I mean, we have the WTO for that if we wanted to pursue that. We also can just engage in trade talks and also work on those down. Again, the United States is
tariffs is a tool to apply pressure to actually get those.
We don't have to.
We do have to. Like that's what we.
Obviously, we should be concerned about. To Justin's point, kind of the best way to do that. I'm not convinced that you couldn't work out a deal with the EU to get like lower regulatory burdens on imported Teslas without tariffing them at like 50% or whatever, or like that threat. Like that seems like an absurd overreaction. That's probably going to alienate us from Europe more than it's worth it for Tesla or whatever. But yeah.
Been seeing.
We see our one.
If you don't like CAT, why do you like Biden? I think Biden. Well, again, Biden is fundamentally decent. I don't like that Biden did a happy rate cut day for real. Yeah, I forgot that was today, but yeah, that is today. I don't like that Biden did the minimum corporate tax and raised the corporate tax as well, but I just think Biden has fundamental decency and Trump doesn't.
Wonderful host over here, James. I don't know if he's been on camera before. Okay, my guess is James is about 6'4". Looks like he can bench 315 in his sleep.
For sure.
Okay, this is a big guy. Yep. Imagine James and I are gonna have a one-on-one convo later because James caught me messing around with his wife. I don't know if he's married or husband or non-binary partner, whoever, right? Yeah, sure. If James were to tell you, I think I'm gonna bring a gun so that I can intimidate Steven, I imagine that we would say to James, you look like you could literally punch kill him. Right, but so I'm just saying that the United States, we have such a huge economy. What country is it that we're incapable of negotiating with?
You're fighting brute force with just incentives. When you mentioned this chips and science, this is a perfect example. Actually, you mentioned chips and science earlier. Do you know what that legislation was before it was chips and science?
Why are we not acknowledging the fact that we don't have free trade with Europe right now? We have 15% tariffs up on Europe right now. If you hate tariffs so much, you should still be against this.
Trump administration was called the Endless Frontier Act, and that was to provide innovation. It was only chips and science. It was bipartisan. I think it was Schumer, and I forgot who the Republican individuals were. But that was only economically viable because of the tariffs that Trump had put on China to bring manufacturing back here. A lot of people don't even.
I don't know if that's true.
Recognize that, but there has been a precedent for.
Why would the subsidies only be viable if we also did tariffs? The subsidy enough should be, an incentive. Like tariffs can maybe offer more of an incentive as well, but like.
Setting incentives, using tariffs as an economic tool to set the correct incentives to align with American.
But we're doing universal tariffs right now. Part of the issue with we have the quote unquote deal with Europe or whatever. We're leaving 15% tariffs up on Europe. A lot of the equipment that companies need to make semiconductors is from Europe. There's specialized equipment that you need to make semiconductors, which is a strategically important industry, obviously, that is now subject to a 15% tax whenever companies use it to produce semiconductors in America. That's horrible. Why would you support universal tariffs even if you want these things?
not only economically, by the way, but also geopolitically. When we see it with immigration, I don't want to talk about immigration right now, but we have seen committals from both Canada and Mexico on that stuff. Whether or not it's been effective, that's a totally different story. But I think there is a utility to tariffs, and I don't think there is. I think you're kind of overstating how catastrophic they've been. There's really no proof that they've been.
There's plenty of proof they are catastrophic, and there's everything about this argument is completely and totally wrong. We have the ability to go to any country that we want and negotiate any deal we want. That's why Trump renegotiated NAFTA to the U.S.-Mexico Canada trade agreement. There was no massive tariffing on both sides in order to bring them to the table. We do not need massive tariffs to bring anybody to the table. We're the United States of America. We can bring anybody to the table by just talking to them. So the idea that
how has that worked the last 20 years? How has that worked the last?
Pretty well. We tend to win most of our cases. We bring to the World Trade Organization. We have trade deals with every country on the planet, basically.
What you see is massive IP theft from China, from places like China.
But IP theft
Oh my
can't
God.
be,
You see massive drug problems coming on.
IP theft can't be fixed by just broad tariffs.
If you apply pressure to the governments that have that are overseeing their citizens, especially like a totalitarian country like China, there are outcomes that are measurable.
In 4 years, if the issues with China related to IP theft or other comparative advantages aren't eliminated or at least severely reduced, would you think that this was a mistake by Trump?
I would say, look, I'm generally, in my libertarian utopian, there's no tariffs. I agree with you on that.
No, I'm saying that if in 4 years we don't make significant progress with China, would you say this
Season when I have when we talk about the stuff I think Biden did a decent number of bad things. I think it was on net, probably on net good. I think he had decent okay policy overall. But again, I care about the fundamental decency, about the point about the rule of law, about the deportations, about all that shit. I do think it was better for the economy than Trump. Yeah, it's certainly than Trump is now. I agree. Biden did not have anywhere near optimal policy.
a failure? We've blown up our trade relations with the rest of the world.
It depends on the metrics that you have to consider, right? What do you mean? What would warrant significant progress? Is it on the
some sort of bilateral trade agreement that irons out our agreements on how intellectual property is to be used? Maybe.
Yeah, that could be one. Maybe it could be China not taking over Taiwan. I don't know. There could be I think there's geopolitical. You would agree there's geopolitical utility to tariffs?
No,
really, none whatsoever.
Why? I guess it depends how you measure utility. Is utility a bomb? I mean,
the utility of pressuring countries so that we get America first geopolitical outcomes. No, really.
That's why none have happened yet. Even though we were promised 90 deals in 90 days, and we have 0 deals.
I wouldn't say zero deals. We've gotten massive investments from Taiwan. Actually, Taiwan.
We've been always getting
Oh my God.
That's just the thing that happens. The U.S. economy capex is a thing that's always happening. FDI is always happening.
So you think the Stargate thing, tariffs hadn't played no into?
And obviously, again, insofar as your tariffs literally tax capital goods that companies import to do investments here. You're hurting investment here. And the uncertainty also is hurting investment here. We have a lot of evidence on uncertainty hurts investment.
Affecting to Stargate.
What is the Stargate thing?
The Stargate initiative is all the different. It's a list of different companies. I have it on my phone. I just forgot them off the top of my head, but that have made. I think it leads up to hundreds of billions, if not over $1 trillion of investments in the U.S. Economy.
My guess is it's always happening. But,
really?
FDI is always. Other people are always investing in the United States. Yes.
What was the
list of different companies? I have it on my phone. I just forgot them off the Stargate.
What is the Stargate thing?
The Stargate initiative is all the different. It's a list of different companies. I have it on my phone. I just forgot them off the top of my head, but that have made. I think it leads up to hundreds of billions, if not over $1 trillion of investments in the U.S. Economy.
obviously,
my guess is always happening. But,
really?
FDI is always.
FDI is always happening. That's is correct there. Stargate, companies, investment. Obviously, we would expect, insofar as kind of, what even, this is just open AI shit? We would expect, insofar as tariffs, incentivize some amount of investment. Typically, it's, just going to have an opportunity cost. That's going to crowd out investment in other sectors. That's probably overall a more productive thing. There could be reasons to do that if it's a big national security issue, which maybe you can make a case with AI or whatever. Maybe, but, so it has been planned since 2022 when it's formally announced. This was the SoftBank CEO thing. No, I remember this. By the way, is it going to probably, FDI probably going to increase the trade deficit because, opposite of trade deficit is the capital account surplus, but I don't even know if the tariffs were at all responsible for this. And again, tariffs tax capital goods that companies use to import, to use to produce their goods. If I need equipment for my factory to produce shit here, and I need that from a foreign country, that is subject to a tax, which means I'm going to buy less of it than I otherwise would, which means there's going to be less capital expenditure than I otherwise would have done.
Other people are always investing in the United States. Yes, we have a lot of foreign investment here.
Sure, but there's I just find it interesting that you bring up something like the chips and science, which is only economically viable because of tariffs.
That's not true. It's economically viable because it's subsidiary by the government.
It's subsidized by which government?
By the United States government.
It's China subsidized. The thing is that other countries also subsidize.
No, they don't. Do they? How?
Do you think? What do you mean? Governments subsidize products all the time.
Our government, the CHIPS Act was a $500 billion bill where the money was apportioned from the U.S. budget.
Right, but the manufacturing, what the CHIPS Act did, one of the most notable parts of the CHIPS Act was to bring manufacturing back to the States, and that was only economically possible because of the tariffs, because it was more expensive at that point to do business in China and other places because of tariffs.
I think it had more to do with the fact that there was a massive government subsidy that financially incentivized you to make it in the United States.
Both can be
a little bit, yeah.
But
the CHIPS Act can be hyper-targeted to incentivize domestic manufacturing without necessarily blowing up a relationship with the rest of the world and without.
There are too many ads on YouTube? It shouldn't be that bad. I guess I can put it on balanced, or sorry, not balanced. It is on balance. I guess you might be able to put it on conservative or whatever. Next stream. I don't think I can do it now. I can delay ads, but I don't think I can. Yeah, I can only delay ads for like 10 minutes or whatever.
Having to do a broad tariff that hurts the entire U.S. market.
I just think that like when you frame it as catastrophic, can I paint a picture real quick? Actually, let me just 30 seconds paint a picture, because you said earlier, and one of the other contestants said there's no the domestic policy.
How much ad rev do you make? Not much. From live streams, not much at all. From uploaded YouTube videos, a little bit. It depends on how well. If I get like really lucky, I get like a video that gets like close to 1,000 views or whatever, I'll make like maybe $5 at most. It's not that much.
Policy doesn't match the tariff policy. I actually completely disagree with that. If we imagine 3 levers, right, and 2 of them are domestic policy, we have corporate tax and federal income tax, and then 1 is international, being the tariff. If we reduce the levers on the domestic taxes and we increase tariff, politically, it's actually a huge win. And I think this is the genius of the Trump administration. God. Is that the domestic policy is extremely hard to change. You have to have approval by the Senate. You have to have a bill. It takes years to change. Tariffs, Trump changes it on a fly.
So that's not supposed to be the way that works.
Yeah, that's part of the issue. Kill me.
Do you acknowledge that is the way that it works?
Because he's abusing illegally the system.
Sure, yes. That is the way that it works. Therefore, you can see that the tariff, like, yeah, we might have 50% tariffs on Brazil, which by the way is only on certain, there's a bunch of exemptions too there. But those can be turned off on a whim. Same with other countries. Like, yeah,
but we don't want an economic policy that the lead executive, the president, can turn on and off whenever he wants. Do you understand how catastrophic that is?
It's in pursuit of America's interests.
But it's not, it's going to be a pursuit of whoever's in office at that particular point in time.
But who's representing America? Like, what is
Trump? I would acknowledge at least the uncertainty there is not in America's interest.
Lame duck president right now. He can be elected again. Why do we know he's representing
America? I mean, because, obviously Trump himself can't be elected again, but
so why would we trust him with the levers on our
because
economy?
we voted for him. He's the chief executive, right?
We didn't vote to give him unilateral control of the economy.
But that is just how the mechanic currently works.
Because he's breaking the law, yes.
He's not breaking
the law.
What law is he breaking?
The thing that allows him to do that is the
IEPA tariffs are almost certainly illegal. Coin toss how the Supreme Court rules in it, in my opinion, but I don't think there's any good argument realistically that they are legal.
It's this Emergency Powers Act. I believe it's either the Tariff of the Trade Emergency Powers Act by Congress that allows him to declare a national emergency, which gives him the ability to do tariffs unilaterally. He declared that our trade deficits were national emergencies and that's what makes the part of tariff the rest of the world. Obviously, that's not the way that was intended to work.
We can argue about whether or not.
Do you think that the president of the United States should be able to unilaterally do economic policy?
Maybe not. Well,
maybe not.
Fiscal policy. I think that they have a huge. Yeah.
No, fiscal comes from the budget by Congress. No, it's by Congress.
Well, yeah, but it's also the executive.
No, it's by Congress. We wouldn't want the president to have unilateral control over.
That's a totally different debate.
Hold on, just real quick. Like, this is a video that did really well for me, at least. Well, not like really, really well, but decent for me. Pretty. I mean, you can see it's pretty above performance or whatever. I got like about 800 views in total, and I got $2.26 in ad revenue from this.
And maybe things will change in the future, but the fact of the matter is that I
think they'll strike the tariffs down. If not, it's so fucking over. Like I said, honestly believe it is a fucking coin toss, unfortunately. Even though stuff I've read, there's just no good argument that they are legal. Like, it is horrible. This is like the second to last live stream. That's when I talked to Seth. 79 views. Does that include the live views? I think that does include live views. I'm pretty sure. 43 cents in revenue.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the lower taxes. Okay, that's all.
If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.